Hello everybody, welcome back to the Panel by Panel Comics channel, and today I'm doing my buy or sell video for these comic books that released this past comic book week. So, kicking everything off, we have The Punisher. This is issue number 1. This is a 32-page comic for the price of $6, written by Benjamin Percy, and the art is done by Jose Luis Suarez. We start off with the Punisher walking on the street and getting stopped by a thug. We see that he gets stopped by a thug, and after Frank scares him a little bit, sorry, I'm working with my new camera, the Osmo, so it's trying to track my face sometimes. But we see that he gets scared off by a thug, and that Frank is still losing his memory because he goes down to the ground and he loses his memory, and he has this person in a basement that is kind of terrified of Frank, which obviously I'd be pretty terrified of Frank too. But you see that there's just a lot of problems going on with Frank, and you see that the memory is going to be a problem, and you see that Jigsaw goes to check out Tombstone, because Tombstone's now in prison after the Punisher Red Band series. If you didn't read that, sorry, that's a little bit of a spoiler, but Tombstone's in jail, and we see Jigsaw go after him, and we see that Jigsaw reveals himself to Tombstone, and he makes the claim that he's going to come after everything, and he has the plans to become this new kingpin. We also see this new TV reporter, Madeline Phipps, and she feels like the Punisher is back, and she wants to do a story on it, but of course nobody's going to believe her, and nobody wants the Punisher to be back because Frank Castle is absolutely terrifying. But this was a really good comic, and it essentially makes Jigsaw one of the biggest mobsters in the MCU right now, since he's overtaken Tombstone. But Punisher number 1, 32 pages, $6. I am buying into this comic book. Next, I know this was released last week, but I have End of Life. This is issue number 1. Now we meet this character of Eddie Stallion. Eddie Stallion is a mobster. He is a pretty terrifying human being, if I'm being honest. No, he's really not. He's kind of a goofball, but he's a goofball that has no remorse whenever he kills people, and that's honestly some of the most scary people that you could possibly meet on the planet. But we go and start the story with him robbing this person's house, and he's trying to figure out, oh, there's Edgar Allan Poe, there's a raven. What's up with this weirdo who has all these weird stuff on the wall? And he puts all the stuff together. He's like, oh crap, that's my boss. He's the head of the East. Sorry about that. He's the head of the East Side of this group called the Menagerie. I kept thinking of it as like the House of Benejet, whatever that is from Dune, that TV series. But you see that it goes bad, and then he starts killing off some of his crew, and he's like, I am fucked. We are. And he goes on the run after talking to one of his closest allies, Carla, and she's like, yeah, you got to go on the run. Buy a bus ticket to somewhere no one will find you, and buy the ticket and everything with cash. So Eddie goes to his dad's house in order to get away from this crazy situation that he's put himself in. And we see that he stops a mugging at this local gas station called Wrong Way Gas Station, that it used to be owned by this dude, something Richard Smiley, and that will definitely come back, as we see that that's a little bit of a teaser towards the end. But as you can tell, Eddie Stallion and his dad, they hate each other. He's literally greeted with a shotgun, Eddie is, whenever he's walking up to the house. And you can kind of tell that the dad is not in a good way right now. And you can see that they've had a lot of bad history with each other. They both hate each other's guts. One, because Eddie was a kind of asshole kid. And two, the dad is an asshole as well. So they both do not like each other one bit. But at the end of the issue, you see that the dad he has cancer. And that's also The Peril of the Brutal Dark, another one that I'm about to be talking about. Sorry, but the dad has cancer, right? So he has to have a hospice working with him, and we get introduced to this character. I need to turn my ringer off. We get introduced to this character of Sophie, who we see was his childhood lover, and she is now taking care of the dad. And you learn to really grow with this character as the movie or as the comic goes along. And I thought this was really good. This is a 40-page comic, and it was only for $4. And when you compare that to The Punisher, that's eight more pages of comic book for $2 less. Really good issue number 1. This is definitely a buy for me. Really good book. I will definitely be reading. I believe this is a 6-issue mini. Not quite sure, but I'm going to be reading it for as long as it comes out. Next is another DC Vertigo book. I have The Peril of the Brutal Dark. This is issue number 1, a 40-page comic for $4. Now, this is another Vertigo title, and it's more of a mystery as we are shown these, I guess, I always forget what they're called, but basically they're going to find this, like, I'm going to call it a hidden treasure. It's not a treasure. They're going to find this Hephaestus anvil or something like that. I can't really remember what it's called, but they go to Greece and they find it there, and you get introduced to this character of, it's called the Anvil of Hephaestus, and you get greeted with this character of Ezra Kane. This was shown in the previews, so I'm not really spoiling anything with the whole blood and the shooting, but he's basically a private detective that does these things for people that pay him money, and it's a good mystery book. And you find out that this is taking place during World War II, so a lot of this stuff makes a lot of sense with the time that it is taken in. And you see that the Greek people, they have to get rid of this anvil because Hitler and Mussolini are planning on attacking Greece, and that is very accurate at the time. Of course, this whole story is kind of made up with the whole Anvil of Hephaestus and stuff, but they have to send it off to America, to an American museum, and essentially we learn that the anvil has been stolen from this museum, and that the night guard that was there, he's also missing, and a woman really wants Ezra Kane to find her husband. And this is a good mystery book. It's The Peril of the Brutal Dark. It's 40 pages, another one for $4. Me personally, not a big fan of mystery books, so unfortunately I am going to be selling this one. However, if you are a big fan of mystery books, or if you just like mysteries in general, I do highly recommend this. Me personally, I will not be continuing this series. Next, this is Inglorious X-Force. This is issue number 2, and it's a 32-page comic for $4, so a lot cheaper than the other Marvel books that I've been picking up this week. Excuse me. The cast of this book: you have Cable, Archangel, Boom Boom, Helverine, and Miss Marvel, who is kind of like the side character in this almost, even though the whole plot centers around her, because the whole idea is that one of these characters outside of Miss Marvel and Cable, either Boom Boom, Archangel, or Helverine, are going to be the ones that kill Kamala Khan in the future. And she becomes the president, and Cable is trying to prevent the assassination, because then you have a huge mutant in human war once more. And of course, nobody wants that. So in this comic, the group, the X-Force, they are going to take out a cartel group led by this man named Barbary Boone, and he is a mutant hater, and he is basically running this group with magic. Sorry, that's a little advertisement page for the Death Spiral event, which I will be talking about next. That's my next comic book. But he is a mutant hater, so the X-Force goes there and takes him on, and Domino is just spying on Cable the entire time, because she's just waiting on him to do something bad, because she doesn't trust him. And it's kind of funny. Those are probably the best parts of this book, whenever Domino is spying on Cable and she has this squirrel right on her shoulder. Those are probably the best bits of this book, and it is really not that good. It's really not a good comic book. This one revolves around Helverine and whether he would be the one to kill Kamala Khan in the future, and he passes his test. And I kind of struggle to get behind the whole Cable character, just because of the whole time travel of it all, and he is a bit of a dick, and I struggle to get behind heroes that are dicks and not nice to other people. and that's kind of what Cable is, at least in my opinion. And I am going to unfortunately sell this comic book. I am no longer going to be reading Inglorious X-Force 2. It was a good first issue that I found intriguing, but the second issue was simply not good enough for me. So Inglorious X-Force, I am selling. So now, almost the main event of the week. This really does feel like it, because this is a Spider-Man event. We have ASM/Venom Death Spiral. This is part 1 of 9. This is a 32-page comic for $6. Absolutely insane what Marvel is doing right now at their prices. But this is part 1 of 9 of this Death Spiral event, and it kicks off showing this I believe it's an 88-year-old man. He ends up getting run over by his own lawnmower after having like some little health event that happens to him, and he falls over and gets run over by his lawnmower. But he kept going in spirals, which is pretty interesting because the villain in this story is called Torment, and his face is literally just a big old spiral. And we kind of are just following these characters of Peter Parker, Eddie Brock, and Mary Jane, as they are going to be the 3 main characters of this story, of course. And it's a whole lot of setup, and at the bottom of every single comic page you see people that are getting closer and closer to these last names of Parker, of Brock, of Watson, and a lot of Brock towards the end, as it seems that Eddie Brock is going to be a big part of this comic book, which makes sense because he's Carnage, and Carnage is one of those symbiotes, as everybody knows. He's probably the most psychotic one of the lot. And you see that at the end that Mary Jane is probably going to be the next target, but you will be surprised of who's feeding him this information. Who's feeding Torment, this evil character, this information of these people to kill off, because Torment is getting sent a list of people that is adding up into a spiral that all connects to MJ, Eddie Brock, and Peter Parker. So it was a really good setup issue in my opinion. Not a great book. I gave it 3.5 stars, but I'm going to be buying into this Death Spiral event. It's only a 9 comic event, so I am buying into ASM/Venom Death Spiral. And with that, guys, that is all 5 of my comic books this week. Just to summarize it up, I am buying The Punisher, I am buying End of Life, I am unfortunately selling The Peril of the Brutal Dark and Inglorious X-Force, and I am buying into the Death Spiral event. So that is going to do it, guys. That is it for this buy or sell episode of Panel by Panel Comics. If you enjoyed and you made it all the way through, please like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know if you are buying or selling any of these books, specifically the Death Spiral event. But stay healthy, stay great, guys, and have a great rest of your day.